I just feel like you should always tell your truth. I just feel like you should always speak up and say what you mean, how you feel. And most people are so non-confrontational. And I don't think you have to be confrontational to tell your truth.
If you believe we can change the narrative, if you believe we can change our communities, if you believe we can change the outcomes, then we can change the world. I'm Rob Richardson. Welcome to Disruption Now.
Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm your host and moderator, Rob Richardson. As always, it's an honor to be here with you. I am here with Isoul Harris, who is the editor-in-chief and founder of EDTION magazine. We have a lot to talk about with him. But before that, if you're watching us here on YouTube, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. We want to make sure more people can know about Isoul and all the great disruptors we've had on the show. If you're listening to us on Apple iTunes, please like us. Please hit a review. That's how more people can learn about what we're doing to help change the world, change constructs, and make sure we can get all these inspiring stories out there. So we appreciate you as always. Also want to make sure we give a shout out to many of our sponsors, Lawton Logistics, P&G Ventures, as well as Fifth Third Bank and many others. We're thankful for your support. Definitely support these vendors. They've been supportive of us. So, but for now, Isoul Harris, how you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you?
So I'm doing well. I can't complain. It's wrapping up the end of the year. It's been a very good year, and looking forward to 2022. And hopefully, we're not still talking about the coronavirus. So
I know exactly. But you're right. But 2021 has been a great year.
It has. So you launched EDTION magazine, lots of other things, and I want to get to all of that and all the great work that you're doing to support Black creatives. It means a lot to us here. We do a lot to support Black creatives, and anybody doing that, I'm very happy about. So, but let's talk about how you even got into this business, into this into EDTION magazine. So, how did you end up envisioning EDTION magazine in terms of what was the thought process? What was the vision that you thought about, and how is that coming so far as you just had your launch this year?
Okay, so EDTION. So I'm gonna backtrack just a little. EDTION.
Sure.
I'm not actually the founder. So
okay.
the publishers of Modern Luxury, which is the largest publishing.
You're the editor-in-chief.
Yeah.
So let me say
I'm
that.
the editor-in-chief. Exactly. Okay. I'm the editor-in-chief. Yeah. So I'm the
upgraded you. My bad.
Yeah, I know, right?
I just put it out there. In your future, you're gonna be founder of some other things in the future. But go ahead.
Absolutely. I believe in manifestation, so that's fine.
There you go.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, so they the publishers of Modern Luxury, they have the largest chain of luxury magazines in the country, and they had an idea to basically connect Black people, or people of color rather, to the luxury space, right? And historically and traditionally, Black people and people of color have been disconnected from that space, and they have been basically disillusioned, right? And from that. So they came to me. I had just come back, left Atlanta, was there for COVID, stayed and helped my parents and everything, and came back to New York because I'm working on some other projects. And they just called me out of the blue, and they told me that they had this idea to do a magazine that blends luxury with Black culture. And I was like, whoa, that's basically my career in a nutshell. So I think everything that I've done so far has brought me to this point. And it's not a coincidence, I think, that who I'm also working with at Rock Nation, who are partners in this venture, Jana Fleischman. I've known Jana for, I guess, 20 years, and we've worked together over the years. So just in working with people who I've known for so long, who've been supportive of my career, this has been really great.
But I would like to know part of your journey with, so you've been in fashion for a while, I guess, and talk to me about a time when, things didn't go according to plan. It might have been a setback. And you now see that as an opportunity that actually made you better. Can you think about a time that sticks out in your mind?
Well, I don't think anything ever goes as planned.
No, I tell life is definitely not linear. Nothing goes according to plan. But let's say when it's something like a major setback, something that really didn't go according to plan, and you're like, okay, this is not how I envisioned it to happen.
Well, I think my whole career is really that. I went to grad school. I went to Morehouse, then I went to grad school in NYU.
Oh, you're Morehouse. Okay.
Yeah. And so after grad school, I decided that I wanted to teach. I've always wanted to teach. It wasn't like some kind of fallback career. I actually did want to have a teaching experience. And so I did that for 2 years. And while I was teaching, I quickly realized that this is not something I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so while my kids were sitting there like working, I would look out the window of my patio that was attached to the classroom. And I'm like, there's a whole world out there. Like, what am I doing? Like, what am I going to do beyond this? And so I would complain to my parents all the time, And one of my 24th birthday came around, and I was complaining to my father. And my father said, he's basically was like, Isoul, just stop it. What in the hell do you want to do? And I said, I want to write. And he was like, well, just write. And I said, well, it's not that easy, Dad. He said, it is that easy. Go do it. And so, right, exactly.
Like our parents just tell you, they don't allow you to make that excuse. Like, no, it is.
Exactly. So according to my dad, I can just go to buy a magazine and say, hey, give me the editor's job. But so I was in Atlanta at the time, and I was literally walking down the street, and I saw this newspaper. It's like one of those free weeklies, And I picked it up, and I looked at the masthead, and I found the editor's name, and I called her. I just called her out of the blue, and I just told her, who I was, who was nobody really. And so I told her what I wanted to do, and she said, "Come down and talk to me." So I went and talked to her, and from that day on, I became her assistant. So I would teach from like 7 to 3, and then I would work at. The paper was rolling out. That was I started my career rolling out, and I would work at rolling out from 4 to like 2 in the morning, and I did that for 2 years straight. And so after that, they gave me the manager editor's position. I actually replaced her after 2 years.
Wow.
So that's how I got into. That's how I got into entertainment. I started as an entertainment journalist.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many lessons in what you just said, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, your father just told you to go out and do it. You saw an opportunity, and that opportunity wasn't like the most glorious thing. Being an assistant is hard work, but you put everything into that. And I tell people this all the time, especially early on in their career, that you value learning over money, because if you learn and you put everything into it, the money will follow, especially if you're passionate about it, right? Because people think like, I have to be here, I have to be editor-in-chief right away because I have the talent. No, it's not how it works that way, right? I mean,
that's such a great point. And I have this conversation with people all the time about don't be married to titles. Like, so many people are married to titles all the time. And I understand why, because, especially as people of color, you do want to have respect. You do want to have that attached to it. You want your experience and your title to speak to your experience. And I get that, right? But I would not be sitting here right now if I was married or attached to titles. I've taken the job that got me back to New York, that got me to become the editor-in-chief of UPTOWN. It was actually a demotion in a sense to, I guess, traditional sense, because I was a managing editor at a magazine called 944. But when the opportunity came up for UPTOWN, it was for a senior editor. I had already been a senior editor maybe 2 or 3 years before that, but I saw beyond that. I saw this as a chance to get me to the media capital of the world again, and then I knew I could go on from there. So I took it, and people were like, well, why are you doing that? I said, because I have a plan, and it worked. Within a year and a half, I was editor-in-chief of UPTOWN, so.
Yeah, I mean, people get into these paths, like they get caught up in titles, and it's all. I think the other problem is people also get into what I call the golden handcuffs. You have a job that you don't like, but it pays well, and you stay there, and you think like, well, I need to have a job that pays just as good as this before I move on. And look, bills are there, realities are there, but also, I mean, your life is there. If you stay tied to something and have these golden handcuffs, you will have a whole lot of regrets 10, 15 years from now that you weren't able to fulfill your purpose. At least that's how I feel. Absolutely.
And I see it all the time. And I have these conversations with friends. Some of my friends from back in the day, they're no longer my friends, but they question my decisions. They're like, why are you leaving like a secure job of teaching? You have your summers off, like as if that's like that's
like yeah.
That's summers off. I'm like, but now I think about it, had I listened to them, I would not have any of the experiences I've had. Like, I literally have traveled the world like 10 times.
Speaking out of their own fears and insecurity.
Right.
I mean, whether they realize it or not, and these could be well-meaning friends, and they could also be parents or loved ones, they're speaking out of their fear to take that leap. Right. And they're, secretly kind of like have a little bit of misunderstanding. Sometimes there's jealousy. There's levels to that. I'm not saying people are going out hating on you, but I'm saying like, there's like, I wish I could be that person to take that leap. And if someone's taking that leap, they must not be thinking it through, or at least they say that in their mind to justify why they haven't taken that leap, why they haven't lived to their full purpose. And like I tell people, like, you can make every excuse you want to in the world, but you do not have to stay in a job. The world is really, really abundant. The world is more abundant than it's ever been. It's just your mindset and how you approach things.
So my really good friend of mine, Nakia Hicks, we always say to each other, whenever we start to talk about what we don't have or what doesn't exist, then we stop ourselves because we don't live in lack. Like you cannot live in any kind of deficiency. Like we're not deficient in anything. Like
Nope.
If you're rushing, stop, breathe. You have enough time to do what you're doing and to get where you're going. Stop, breathe. Like you have enough time to make your deadlines. But when we start acting so frantic and so frenetic, that's when everything just crumbles. And a lot of things just fall apart. So you're absolutely right.
I completely agree. That's good advice for me because we all get overwhelmed sometimes too. I feel that way. Like you're not going to be able to hit it. You got to just sit back, breathe when you get to that point, and have yourself enough time to be able to see the vision and then step back. Right.
Exactly.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about EDTION. So you're the editor in chief.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as the vision for EDTION right now in the next 5 years? Like, what is it that you want EDTION to be known for?
So I was talking about this with our vice president of marketing, Eric, who's a really, really brilliant guy. So we share the same vision about EDTION. Originally, so I envisioned EDTION as a platform where people of color, can come together and really have the support and the resources, to create and to be on the same playing field as their mainstream counterparts, that have over time. I feel like we've had great Black publications. Ebony, Jet, we have Essence, Black Enterprise, all these great publications. But we all know that they have a certain set of problems that other mainstream publications do not have. And I feel like that is something that we need to address.
So what do you think that is? But you can get to that too. Finish your point. But I want to know what you think those problems are.
Well, the main problem is, everything comes down to money, right?
Yeah.
And so it's advertising, and it's advertising and corporate America looking at certain magazines as not being luxury, or Black people not understanding luxury, or our understanding of luxury being different than our white counterparts' understanding of luxury. I've experienced this firsthand. I've worked throughout my entire career. I've worked at Black publications. I've worked at niche publications. I've worked at mainstream publications. I worked at one of the top art and architecture magazines in the world. And during my time there, I realized that I would talk to people in the sales department, and they would ask for, let's find someone to do like this spread. So I would find someone, and then they would say, well, they're not really our aesthetic. And what would that aesthetic be, right? So it's things like that. It's like that coded language that's created to keep certain people outside of this world, And I feel like EDTION is that
they're getting to define what luxury is, and that luxury is a very narrow point of view.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like we want to give people the codes. We want to give people the tools to decipher all these things that have been working against you as a creative for all this time, So I feel like EDTION is really that.
So how will you, because I think one of the issues with some of our traditional publications, and they've done a lot of great work, obviously, but I also believe that they don't innovate fast enough or fail to really innovate. I think it's part of the issue, right? They want to, I've seen this with a lot of our legacy civil rights institutions, the NAACP, Urban League's a little bit better, but all of them tend to hold on to a very structured way of doing things exactly how they were done 50 years ago. And, things move extremely fast, as you know, right now. So my question to you is how will EDTION innovate? Specifically, I have a question about Web3. I know you guys have done some stuff with Web3, and I actually do something in this space too. So we'll have to talk a little bit offline about that. We had just so you know, we had the first Disrupt Art is the first Black-owned NFT marketplace in the world. Yeah, thank you. No, we're launched on Flow. But I say all that to say, what are you guys doing in this moment to innovate, to bring all the opportunities we have in this current environment to make sure that EDTION is really getting its brand out there and empowering creators?
So definitely. So with this being our very first issue, my vision was to have this magazine from cover to cover, be a showcase and exhibition of Black talent.
Yes.
And and the thing about it is we've seen certain magazines do this before, right? I think the most popular one has been Italian Vogue a few years ago when they had the black issue, which sold out four times on the newsstand. So it was great. It was beautiful. They had all the top beautiful Black models in every page. Spreads were amazing. But the only thing was all of those Black models were shot by 2 white men, you know? So in essence, they're just projecting the European standard of beauty onto Black women, you know? And so what are we really saying about that? So my vision was to have every original photography that we have in this first issue, I wanted to be shot by a Black person. I wanted Black people to be shot by Black people. I wanted Black people to speak to Black people. I wanted Black people to be interviewed by Black people. And I wanted to be really just be a showcase of that so we could have that. I mean, I think things like that are so important. I remember when I was the editor-in-chief of UPTOWN magazine and Lupita Nyong'o was on Broadway. I think it was a play called Eclipse. And it was the first time that Black women had starred, directed, and produced on Broadway on one show, right? So it was a monumental event. So I put them on the cover. So my vision was, I remember the Essence magazine covers from back in the day, like the 70s and 80s, you know, that they would show like this beautiful array of Black women, you know, they were brown, they were Black, they were light skinned, you know, all this. And so I wanted to show that with these women, you know, and that's what we did, you know, and I think oftentimes when you do have a vision, sometimes people want to interrupt that. And so even in trying to showcase that, the director of the play, who was a lovely woman, lovely, they wanted her to be on the cover. And I said, well, I'm sorry, she can't really be on the cover because she's going to disrupt this image, because image is everything. Image is the language that inspires the world, right?
Absolutely.
And inspires you know, and so she would have disrupted that inspiration, that aspiration, had she been on the cover. So I had to stand my ground. And people were really kind of mad, you know, until it came out.
Yeah.
And then it was celebrated, right? And so I think
that's how it works.
Yeah.
I mean, I almost say this, really just interrupt you very quickly. You know, it's when you know your why and you're rooted in it, it makes it much easier to really make decisions. So I tell this story all the time about Steve Jobs and the fact that, you know, they knew the why of Apple, and the why of Apple had nothing to do with computing. It was about empowering the individual user. So when they came out with the iPhone that we all use now, it was like this radical design. And previous to that, the phone providers determined how the design went. I'm not sure if you knew that, right? So you'd have to clear it with the AT&Ts of the world, with the Verizon Wireless of the world, in order for your phone to be distributed, because that's how the phone got distributed. And so they came out with a design, and they're like, "What the hell is this?" Like, we don't. And nearly every single one rejected Apple, every single one, except for AT&T. Now, the financially prudent decision at that time would have been to go with what all the phone providers wanted. Just like with you, the prudent advice maybe would have been to go with what some of these designers people want, because it probably seemed like, you know, it could cause a lot of backlash. But, you know, they knew what their why was and they stuck to it. And AT&T obviously became the first exclusive provider, and the rest is history. But had they acquiesced to what the powers that be said, this is what you have to do, they would have never been Apple. That's the same thing with Edition. So I'm happy you stuck to your guns, and it's hard to do sometimes, but it's easier to do that when you know your why and you're willing to fight for it.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's very hard. And I've been in certain spaces throughout my career. Like even this year, I've had a chance to work with, you know, some major blue chip corporations on different projects, and being in these rooms and hearing these conversations, and, you know, coming up with ideas, and people are receptive of these ideas, extremely excited about the ideas, until it comes down to execute said ideas. And then they realize that they have, we really have to do some work with this. Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, so no.
And we don't actually get a chance to really control the narrative. It's like, it's one thing to say they're good with it, but that a lot of times they're in a situation where they get to make, mainstream gets to make the decisions while pretending to be inclusive. Like that most of it, I tell those people, when people talk about diversity and inclusion, most of the times it's diversity and illusion. It's not real, right? It's like, it's something that they're pretending to do to make themselves look good.
It's so performative. It's so performative. And I just think that some people really don't even understand like you said, their whys and hows, and why inclusion is even important, you know?
Yeah.
And what
it's important because
it
makes you, let's be clear, we're not in this we are in it to make good impact.
Right.
But it also makes money.
Right. Exactly.
Period.
Exactly. It's just good. It's just good business to include everybody.
Yeah. And it makes more money because the world is more diverse than ever. You have a whole bunch of diverse clientele in Africa and Latin America and in America itself that still is extremely underserved because you have people making the decisions that don't understand the culture, period.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And I've experienced that. It's like everywhere I go, you know, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I'm the kind of person that I have to stand up for whatever community, the two communities that I am firmly rooted in, and in my own beliefs. I cannot sit still and not say something. It's just not in me. I don't have it. And
you're a disruptor. That's why you're on the show, Isoul.
I know but you know what? And it's so funny. Like, I never thought of myself as that, but I think about it like, you know, it started in high school. I remember in my history class, I think it was Black History Month, and my history teacher, I was the only Black kid in the class. I was one of five.
I've been there, done that. I've been through that experience. Yes, I understand where you're coming from. Go ahead.
So there were only 5 Black kids and 418 kids, you know, out of my graduating class. So, right.
It wasn't that bad, but yeah, I hear you. I feel you. Go ahead.
And so she's talking about Malcolm X. And she says, oh, Malcolm X was just an angry Black man who ran around with a machine gun.
Oh, Lord.
And he said, let's kill Whitey. And that was
the lesson.
She moved on. She moved on to the next subject. And I looked around, literally. I was looking around like wow. And the kids didn't know any different. Like, they don't know.
Why would they?
They're trusting him, right? Exactly. But she didn't know I had just finished reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, you know? And so I just raised my hand and I'm like, excuse me, no, he didn't do that. And I said, you know, as Malcolm X, he never committed an act of violence. And he wasn't going around saying, let's kill Whitey. He was talking about self-defense, you know, and all these other things.
Yeah.
And so from that point on, I realized it's like, wow, you really can't just trust people to tell you the truth, you know?
No, and that's why it's so important.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important what you're doing. Also what we do and things like that. Like our goal with, you know, Disruption Now and eventually with Disrupt Art is to also be a multimedia company, but in a way to help shape narratives, right? And make sure we empower more people using the power of NFTs and Web3. Because if we don't shape the narrative, others shape the narrative and they tell a story like not tell the full truth or tell just outright lies. And it doesn't get challenged, but we have more ability to challenge these narratives. And we have a lot of work to do to change these narratives that have been in place for the last 400 years, but let's get busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that I'm really excited about in EDTION is, you know, I'm a big history buff, you know, and with the entertainment, there's a lot of like rich stories that have gone to the grave with certain artists, and you know, and I love extracting those stories and making connections to like today. And so we're doing that a lot in EDTION, you know, bringing up stories that don't necessarily have anything to do with right now, you know, but people may not think so, but we find the connection between the two, you know, and so that's really exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to ask you some of the rapid fire questions that I love to ask people here. So some of these are tougher questions. So
okay.
So here's one. What's a conviction or a truth you have that many people disagree with you on? Told you.
Well, I'm going to say, and I don't really think it's a big deal, but people do. I just feel like you should always tell your truth. I just feel like you should always speak up and say what you mean, how you feel. And most people are so non-confrontational. And I don't think you have to be confrontational to tell your truth. You know, I've learned it the hard way. I've been confrontational and not really have done it the diplomatic way. You know, so I've learned over time how to stay within the professional realms and still speak my truth. Do I still slip up? Sure, I do. I'm human, you know, but I just cannot like tell my truth. So it gets me in, I guess, trouble sometimes. But I feel like
it's like John Lewis said. There's sometimes you need some good trouble.
Right, and I feel like it hasn't stopped me. You know, I feel like I've worked in this industry for 20 years, like nonstop, without interruption. So, you know, here I am.
I think it's more important for people to respect you than like you. That's that kind of Malcolm X point of view anyway. Because, you know, what can you really do with like? People like you. What does that mean? Like, if people respect you, they know there are certain lines they shouldn't cross. They know they need to do business with you like they do everyone else. And you cannot like me. I don't give a shit. Like it's
Right.
you don't have to like me. It doesn't mean I'm going to be unprofessional. It just means that you're going to know what the lines are, and I'm going to respect you,
Exactly.
and you're going to respect me.
Exactly.
If we're going to have a relationship. And I believe that those who are willing to have it's not being confrontational. And sometimes people think that when Black people are asserting their beliefs or their rights or their positions like everyone else does, that makes us controversial. No, that just makes us understand our value and be willing to fight for our value. And those who are willing to be uncomfortable will have the most impact in the world. Those who are willing to have uncomfortable conversations will move forward, because you can't be comfortable and grow. These are like diametrically opposed forces.
I say that all the time. I mean, I'm in a luxury space, but there's no growth in leisure. There's no growth in like luxury.
None.
There has to be some kind of discomfort,
Yeah.
And I had this conversation with our wonderful editor, our editorial director, Phoebe. I was saying, for us to do this magazine correctly, and which me and the managing editor, that's our intention, of course. But there will be times when it's uncomfortable,
Sure,
because race does come into play, because we are dealing with a certain culture, or cultures, right? And so you have uncomfortable conversations. So we have to be ready for that, and prepare for that. But you also mentioned knowing our worth. That's so important. And I tell younger people this all the time. Never be afraid to ask for what you are worth. Never be afraid. Because we've been taught for so long not to talk about money, to not talk about it's inappropriate, but it is not.
No, it's not.
It's not at all. It is not at all. So always ask what you want, And I tell people, you might not get it, but most of the time you will. You just never know.
Yeah. And if you're not, at least you know where you stand, right?
Right.
You know where you stand, so okay, do I need to? There's always two. When you're in a situation that you don't like, you only have two options, really. You can give voice to how you feel, which is standing up for yourself, or you can leave. There really is no other option, right? The other options are to just deal with it, but that doesn't resolve anything. If you want to have an option to resolve it one way or another, you give voice to it, or you leave the situation.
Absolutely.
Only two options you got, right? So, like, at least if you're giving voice to it, you're giving an opportunity to improve it. This goes for business, relationships, life. I mean, I am very open, and I encourage all of my workers, folks that work with me. Like, we have uncomfortable conversations. I encourage them to challenge me, because I never want to be in a situation where the emperor has no clothes and we're doing something stupid because people feel like they can't speak up. Like, that's not the culture. That's a culture that actually destroys innovation rather than creating. Right. So
my father always told me. My father was one of the first Black marketing managers at IBM in the 80s, and so he always told me, as far as being a manager, as far as managing or leading people, if you are the smartest person in that group, then there's a problem. Because you're not going to innovate. You're not going to grow.
Nope.
You can't be the smartest person in your group. You have to hire people who know things you don't know.
I mean, otherwise, why do you have them? If you know everything, why don't you do it all? I mean, like, that's just exactly right. Yeah. All right. Next question. You have a committee of 3, living or dead, to advise you on business or life or whatever you want. Who are these 3 people and why?
Okay. Let's see. I would have Bayard Rustin.
Okay. That's a great one.
Bayard Rustin was an advisor to Martin Luther King. And he also was the architect of the March on Washington, which people don't know.
Yep.
But he was pushed to the back for the most part because he was openly gay.
Yep.
Yeah, he's gay. So for someone like that to live their truth in that kind of climate, he was a communist as well. So he was an openly gay Black man who was a communist.
He's talking about a disruptor. Woo!
Right, exactly.
In the 50s and 60s.
Right. Exactly. I'm moved by people who are like that, who is so counterintuitive to the times they're living in. So definitely Bayard Rustin.
Yeah, he has while you're on that, Bernard Rustin has one of my favorite quotes when he was talking to Dr. Martin Luther King. A lot of people don't know this. Dr. King was looking at a mountain, and Dr. King said, like, wow, it looks so close. And I'm gonna butcher this a little bit, but he said, don't mistake a vision for don't mistake the vision for a small distance. Like, it is close. It looks close, but the path to get there is a long way. So never mistake your vision for a small distance. Like, those aren't the same thing. So he was very, very profound. And so
yeah, absolutely.
All right, your other 2.
Lorraine Hansberry,
Okay.
the playwright. She was another disruptor. I mean, I think people only know her for Raising in the Sun, but she was she was like a firebrand behind the scenes. And she stood up to Bobby Kennedy in his office and told him to basically, beat it,
Oh, yes. I remember. I know you're talking about now. Yes. Yep.
Yes. And for her to be a Black woman like that in the 60s, at that time. So
to tell Bobby Kennedy you could go to hell. Yeah, no, exactly.
Right, because he wanted them to basically just go and tell Black people that,
everything's good.
To pacify them, right?
Yeah.
And so she said, I'm not doing that, And also when she was dying of cancer, she knew that there was a ceremony for children, for young Black children, and they were being awarded for their, I think their grades or stuff like that, And so she got up, even though she was sick, she got up and she went and spoke to them. And that's when she coined that term, I'm here because you all are young, gifted, and Black. And you don't know now, but that's going to take you far. And that's why you're so special, And so that's why, someone like that is just, she's amazing.
All right, your third.
And my third, I think
it could be living. It could be anybody you want.
Oh, I think definitely Harry Belafonte.
Okay. Oh yeah, Harry Belafonte. Yeah.
Harry Belafonte. I mean, I think out of all the entertainers, I think he's probably the one who's always put his money where his mouth is. That he's never been one to shy away from any kind of conflict. When Lena Horne could not get an apartment in New York, he bought the building and gave her an apartment.
Hey, see, there you go. That's my man. I mean, that's how I want us to be, right? I got to the point because you got to this point earlier about us thinking about money, like money is bad, or if you're pursuing money, then you have to be a bad person. One of the statements that are underlooked by Dr. King is he actually addressed this. And I'm gonna butcher this again, but he talked about love and power. And he said, power without love is reckless and abusive. Love without power is sentimental and anemic. We need both. Like, we've gotten to this place where we think like you don't have power and love. It's that you get power and love, you bring those two together, which means that like you can have all the great ideas you want to. If you don't have any money or resources or network to move it, it doesn't matter. A dream without traction is just a dream.
Exactly. And that's what relationships are it's such the golden currency. And people don't realize this. I think people, I guess back in the day, maybe, because I know for myself, I'm so lucky that I was able to build like really strong relationships early on in my career that I'm actually still bidding for them now.
Relationships are everything. Relationships are the currency. They really are.
Yeah. And so you have to have those strong relationships in order to, like you said, get your ideas off the ground. Absolutely.
You do.
Absolutely. Because people aren't buying into the idea. They're buying into you.
That's what people don't understand. Like it comes to the people don't follow causes, even people follow people. And then sometimes those causes end up taking on a life that are bigger than those people.
Right.
But people initially follow people. We are humans. We are more tribal than we like to understand that we are. So people follow people. And so it matters your relationships, your network, and what you stand for. I mean, it eventually plays out over time.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've never been in a time, I would say, Isoul, that where I think the benefit and the challenge is that we have such a permanent record of what everybody has done and said that there's this opportunity, obviously, to create a brand. I think it's also the dark side of that is there's not a lot of opportunity to provide enough grace for people to, be able to move forward, because people have made all types of mistakes. You think about the leaders we've had. I mean, think about the Dr. Kings and many other people that Malcolm X's that had, like all of us, had some challenge past, some more than others.
Right.
But would they be able to move forward in the environment we have? Because everything is so documented. I mean, it's both a benefit and it's also a challenge. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and things are judged so quickly before we even know anything about anything. And I don't know. I think it's controversial, to some people, but I'm able to separate like the art from the person. I mean, I don't know how
I am too
about that. I just feel like it's a shame that certain things have been basically kind of almost buried because of the person who created it. And I just feel like even though that art has helped generations of people, but now that person is no longer considered to be a good person. That's
your real point. That's your conviction that few people would agree with you on. That's a better answer to me. That's the answer, that people should be divorced we shouldn't necessarily connect the art with the person or divorce the art just because the person has flaws.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the person is just a vessel. You know, they're a vessel. We're all, like you said, we're all human, right? And
Yep.
I don't think, personally, I think the whole notion of just this binary thinking that people are so like obsessed with, it's either this or that. When the world is not even that, the world is in here, you know, and no person is all good or all bad, you know. I'm working on a documentary now, and so I found, it's a fashion documentary, but I found one of the people that I've always idolized in research, I found some really ugly things about them, you know? And I was like, oh, wow. But then I started to think, the same empathy that we ask people for, we have to give empathy as well, right? And so you have to sit back and think about, why does she do that? Because that doesn't seem like her character. And then you research and see she was under the same pressures as everyone else. And so she had to do some things in order to keep her job and her livelihood.
Right.
Unfortunately, doesn't make it right, but at least you understand where it's coming. At least you understand where it's coming from. And I just think that we don't give people that kind of nuanced thinking or anything. You know, everything is either this or that. And if it's not this, then it's canceled. You know, it's
yeah, social media, in particular Twitter, nuance is lost. Like people make one point and then they just go, and it's like, it's very binary, evil, good, great, horrible. Like, it's like we, you know, and because we're emotional, we react that way. I've worked personally, because I've done that before in the past too, but I work very hard to not have those reactions, to be, and really try to step back from my instincts and my emotions to react that way, because we are human, we react that way. And I believe that social media has a lot of great things. Like, we probably wouldn't have met without social media, right? We wouldn't have this show and anything else like that. But at the same time, every tool should be used accordingly. And we got to put it in its place and understand that some of these things, particularly the news and how the news is used in media, is toxic to the brain. You know, the news and these clickbaits are sometimes toxic to the brain, just like sugar is to the body. We have to just be very cognizant of how we take it in and how we absorb it. Lots of good sides to it, but I do think we need to be aware. And it's very hard to be aware. Again, you talked about earlier, stepping back and breathing. I think that's very important when we do social media too, and really think before we tweet, think before we react. Because just because it's instant, just because you can, doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. And just the whole notion of breathing and stepping back and allowing things to breathe. That's one of the things that I really am proud of with this first edition of Edition. The very first story it's a section that I created called Witness. And I just envisioned talking to people who their art is really just an exhibition of their truth and them standing in their truth. You know, it's kind of unapologetic. You know, and so the first person is Mickalene Thomas, the famous visual artist and photographer. And so we have Xavier Simmons, who's also she's a professor and a visual artist. They have this amazing conversation, and at the beginning of the conversation, it's two Black women talking who were huge in their fields. The first thing is Xavier asked Mickalene, "So you live a life of beauty. You create beauty. You wake up around beauty. You and your partner are beautiful. How does it feel to be in a world that you help construct and it's all about beauty?" And I couldn't get past that first question. It kind of knocked me out, because I'm like, wow, how often do you hear or have the opportunity for two Black women to talk about being in a culture of beauty? And how does that? It's usually a conversation that's attached to struggle, you know?
Amen. You're right.
You know, and so I feel like we're giving this opportunity, but we do live in these spaces, and we are creating these spaces, but they're not often shown because it's not convenient for other people who have other agendas. But with Edition, that story is like, I think it's like 7 pages, you know, and it just opens up and it just breathes, you know, and I feel like having those kind of conversations is really important.
I agree. I mean, we obviously have had the struggle conversation. We'll continue to have it. But it can also be, sometimes you need a release. Like everything doesn't need to necessarily be about our struggle. It's nice to also hear about beauty. It's nice to hear, like, we're multidimensional. We're not just focused on the oppression and the struggles. They're there. We talk about them. But sometimes it's therapeutic to talk about the great things that are going on, the beauty. I love it. I mean, I think that's a really great point that you made there. I love that point. So final question as we wrap up here. What is a theme or saying that would signify your life, and why is that? It could be like your billboard ad, your saying. What is that?
This is really easy. It's so funny. About 20 years ago, I bought this coffee table book by Gianni Versace.
Yep.
And it's a quote from him. And he said, "The important thing is to go, period." That was it. And that always stood out to me. And as I got older, I realized why it's so important, because it really is just that. It's like, we use another term for it. We say you need to show up, right? It's just like, the important thing is to go. You don't have to have everything figured out. You don't have to have everything perfect. You don't have to have everything in your arsenal. But if you know that this is going on, just go. I guarantee you it'll all work out better than you ever imagined.
I agree.
Yeah.
So as we conclude, so how do people learn about EDTION magazine? What's coming next? How can we support? So
you can go to editionml.com. That's our website.
We'll put that in the link. Yep.
Okay. And also there you can see the entire magazine in its digital form, so you can go and check it out and let us know what you think. And then our next issue will be, we're calling it our next wave issue. So it's all about people who are doing something that's next gen, that's doing something that is innovative, that's doing something that, no one's ever done, or they're doing it a different way. People who are just not even younger, it's young, it's old, it's everyone, no matter the age, people who are doing really fantastic things in this space. So.
That's awesome. We look forward to it. Isoul Harris, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing you in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.